Phenomenal African Women UK. Ready to be inspired, celebrated, and empowered? Hey, it's the Afrodia Empower podcast, where we share our real and relatable experiences as young Black women connected to the African diaspora. Invite some friends and join the conversation with your hosts, Shernorva, Emmanuella, and Blessings.
Great. Hi, everyone. And welcome back to the Afrodia Empower podcast. I hope you all are doing well, staying safe. And yes, today we have a very, very exciting episode. It's going to be focused around the topic of media and entertainment. And we have our very first guest on today. So if you could introduce her, her name is Isikan Osunde. So very welcome.
Hello, guys. Thanks for having me. Yes, I'm Isikan and I'm a creative. And yeah, I'm looking forward to this topic.
Lovely, lovely. So, how are you all doing today?
Girl, I'm tired.
Shernorva, how you doing?
It's one of those days I woke up from a nap and then came in here.
Oh,
It's been one of those days. It's been one of those days. It's been busy, but it's been good. It's productive.
great.
What
And-
about you guys?
I'm tired. I'm trying to get all these essays done and and hit those deadlines. Apart from that, the sun is coming out. So when the sun comes out, I'm like in a different mood. I just want to go outside, get some fresh air. So yeah, I'm not doing too bad.
That's good. And you, Isikan, our very special guest?
I'm doing good as well. Just been doing some work in the morning, but been excited to catch up with you guys.
Great. Okay, so we're gonna just go into our first question. And I guess as you are creative and I guess you're building your social media presence, many people may ask you, like, who is Isikan? Who is Isikan? Yeah, so I'm gonna ask you now, who is Isikan?
Who is Isikan? I feel like to put it in one or two words, I would say I'm a storyteller and a thinker. And I know those are quite broad terms, but I try not to make it too, I don't want to put myself in a box because I still feel like there's always more to find out about ourselves. But I know that through everything I do, I'm either telling a story or sharing my thoughts on something. So, yeah.
I really, really like that. I really like the idea of how you don't put yourself into a box and you like to, because I think one thing I've gained by watching your feed is you really like to diversify your content. Like every time I come up, it's something new and I really, really enjoy that. So that's really good. So, okay, in that sense, what would you say to somebody that wants to diversify their brand? Maybe they've been doing something for a long time. I don't know, maybe they were dancing or doing a particular poetry or something, but they want to show a different side to themselves. How do you introduce that? What would you advise to someone?
I would say, I would firstly say your brand isn't tied to what you do, but who you are. So even if you were to branch into something else, it's still you doing it. So you would just have your own signature of doing that, whether it be, I don't know, now going into acting or going into something completely different. I think it's still your brand that's trademarked, if that makes sense. But I understand, because I feel like at times it's hard for us to branch out because people will expect this and that from us. But I think it's about letting go of those expectations and not limiting what God can do through you. Because I think even at the age that we are now, we still have so much to release and we don't know what avenue God is going to turn us to, if that makes sense.
True. I was gonna jump in as well and say, as you said that you're a storyteller and a creative, so a storyteller and the word just got out of my head. But a thinker? But would you say that also hinders you as well? Like sometimes you overthink because, like when creating, because you're thinking this, like how deep does it go being a creative and I keep saying a creative, a storyteller and a thinker, because you are a creative as well.
I think when I was thinking of being a thinker, because I agree, I think sometimes even I know that I personally sometimes overthink situations. But I think when I was saying think, I was thinking more about ideas, like thinking of new ideas or innovator. Maybe that's a clearer way of saying it, but just, you know, thinking while it's still free to think, you know, thinking while, you know, people are allowing you to have freedom of speech to think. So yeah, I guess that's what it stems from.
Nice.
How do you allow yourself to kind of think outside of the box? Because I follow you on Instagram and I've seen like really creative reels, just amazing ways of incorporating like music and poetry and dance. So how do you allow yourself to think outside of the box, really?
Thank you so much. I think it's mainly about not being afraid to be your authentic self. And whatever, because the thing is, when God sets an idea on our hearts, is usually very seasonal, and just being able to just release it, not thinking, oh, I need to have this first, I need to have that first before I can create this and that. Just releasing what you want. You know, a 15-second reel might touch someone. You don't know who's watching, you don't know who's listening. And I think what's helped me, at first I thought I had to be so prepared. Even before starting YouTube, I was like, I have to be so prepared. I need to get a camera, I need to know this, I need to know that. But I think there's something about starting and learning along the way that's better than trying to learn everything before you start, because you're always going to learn something new. And even in terms of thinking outside the box, I think is even how do I say this? I think it's not even necessarily trying to look to do something different, but following what God has laid on your heart in that moment of time, and just allowing yourself to release, not overthinking it, just, you know, release.
Wow.
That's amazing.
I really like the idea of when you said that you don't have to wait till you're, you know everything, or you feel like you have the right platform now to be able to share. I think an analogy I've come across once was, it's like being on the ladder and you're on the second step and you're saying, okay, well, someone's on the sixth step, why can't they help the someone that's on, you know, ground zero? But actually someone's just below you, you should be able to help them up. So I really like that idea of helping who you can and impacting who you can. In terms of when you mentioned that you like to diversify your brand, you're not just one thing, you don't just portray one type of content. What was that journey like for you? Because from what I know from you personally, I knew you as the dancer kind of thing, and then eventually like, no, I'm not just the dancer, I'm more than that, and you showed more sides to yourself. What was that journey like for you?
I would definitely say, because I agree. I was even thinking about this today, because for a long time, like, I just focused on dance because it was the one thing that I was just most comfortable with sharing. But I knew there were other things that I wanted to do, but I just kept on. I felt like I hadn't reached that level where I could release, kind of going back to the idea of thinking I have to be ready. But I think once you actually release something, that even if it's something you've never done before, like, I don't know, you like to sing, but you've never released any videos of you singing, or you like to write and you've never released any song. Like, I think for me, I think it's because I just finally thought, you know what at the level that I'm at now, let me document my progress. And you actually begin to realize there's more in you than you think. And I think that's one thing that I realized I've had to overcome. There's so much more in us than we actually give out. And I think it's about, I think we live our lives just trying to understand ourselves more. I don't think we fully arrive at our knowing. Like, I think God has so much that he wants to release in us. And it's just about us not limiting it to what we are known for, but who we actually are. Because I think even in the time that we're in right now, people are going into different avenues, and you can be very multifaceted, you know, like even outside of the creative world, the corporate world as well. I never thought I would get into finance and investing and trading and stocks and stuff like that. And I thought, no, that's for a certain type of people. They look this certain type of way. They think this certain type of way. But no, you know, we should never limit what God can do through us because of the way we have seen ourselves be in the past. You get what I mean? So instead of trusting on our results in the past, trusting on the revelation that God gives us in our heart.
Lovely. Okay, I can move on to another question now. Okay, so what actually just came to mind is you were saying about how you're not really relying on people's expectations of what they think of you to determine your content. Have you ever received like negative comments or people taking your content in a negative way, and how have you dealt with that if you have received any negative comments?
Oh, that's a good question. I think the comments, the main comment I've gotten is like, "Oh, you're doing too much. Relax. You're doing too much."
Really?
And I think, because I think it's kind of the mentality that it's the scarcity mentality where you feel like leave out some, like you have to spread it out, but instead of seeing it like you're trying to divide, think of it like a cake or like pizza, and you're cutting the slices so that there's enough for everyone. It's not, I think sometimes people have that mentality, especially like in terms of YouTube or going into something that's highly saturated, as they say. But instead of seeing it like that, seeing it like a candle, a light. And when like Christmas Day when we're lighting everyone's candle in church, kind of like that. Yeah. The flame never runs out. There's enough for everyone to go around. And I think being comfortable with we serve a God of extra. He does exceedingly and abundantly. So why would we ever be doing too much by expressing ourselves? You get what I mean? And I think that's one thing that's limited me, because I didn't want to come across too extra. But I realized that's just part of my character. And you're not gonna, you're gonna have the audience for you. Not everyone is gonna, it won't be everyone's cup of tea, but you're going to have your audience, and that's okay. We're not meant to be everyone's audience, so.
And I think it's a good point as well, because even for me, I've had to sometimes let go of people's comments, even if it's close family and friends, because in my head I'm like, my brand is not for you, and you're not my target audience. It's okay. Like if I'm doing something for young women, or I'm doing something for brands, like just because your auntie tells you that she doesn't like it, it's okay. My auntie's not a young woman anymore, and she's also not a brand that I'm looking to work with. So like there has to be almost like a shift in your mindset when it comes to that, because if not, you could end up feeling really alone and really like going inside yourself about what, like, am I actually good enough? Is what I'm doing, is it actually helping anyone? Yeah.
The point that Shernorva mentioned about like receiving criticism from, I guess, people that are older or elders. I think with just the creative movement that's just going on at the moment, there's such a big generational gap. And all of this is very new, like YouTubers, content creators, Instagram influencers, so on and so forth. Like there's such a new careers movement that's happening that they've never been exposed to, compared to like the traditional career choices. So I kind of, when you guys were talking about criticism or people not really understanding, just like, yeah, but this is new, like you've never experienced, so naturally you would have something negative to say. But as you were talking, Isikin, I was just going to ask you, who do you kind of look up to in the fields that you are kind of dabbed into, and who really kind of inspires you or pushes you to, keep creating and not, limit yourself to the comment of you're doing too much? Yeah.
I think there are many people. There's just a lot of people, like I get inspired by everyone. You get what I mean? Like I think of people like how, for example, with Rihanna, she started off in the music industry and now she's doing fashion and she's doing amazing in that. And then I've forgotten her name. But people that are not afraid to cross into different industries, like someone that's really close to me, like my big sis, her name's Melenda. And she started off as a keynote speaker. She was traveling and speaking and telling her story. And then she's recently gone into the music industry. And it's like, she could do both. And even in the song that she recently released, Prosper by Mulla, check it out, guys. She talks about that. She talks about the different worlds mixing together, because I think that's what inspires me. That's the people that I look up to, that are not afraid to change the expectation of how you should be or how many things you should be involved in. Yeah.
And I think you've made a good point there, Isakan, as well, because the people that you look up to when it comes to the creative work that you do, it's so important to look up to not only positive people, but people who you aspire to be like as well. In terms of like your brand, I guess we'll say your brand is so diversified that if you were looking at people who were just doing it in one area, then you may feel actually maybe I can't do all of this, or I shouldn't do all of this. But by keeping your eyes open in terms of the people that you watch, that also has helped your brand to be like, do you know what, this is possible on any level, right? So for all those you listening at home as well, don't feel like you just have to listen to one person, one type of content, one type of thing. Let your mind expand. And I think when your mind expands as well, that's really when God's like, you know what, I can work with this. Like really open your head, open your mind, open your book, and just write some of the craziest ideas down. And then that's when God's like, I can help you make like a store made out of ice cream. I'm just out off the top of my head. Yeah, but yeah.
Wow. Do you know what even just came to mind when you're talking about your content as well is, do you ever find that, because you know you're doing this, like you're a bit unique, and okay, let me word this properly. Do you ever find that you're almost competing with other people? Well, I don't know if that's worded properly, but do you ever find that, okay, someone's working in a similar industry, or you see someone doing something that's a bit similar to you, have you ever felt a bit like threatened by it? Like, share your honest experiences.
Yeah, I'll be very transparent. I think especially at the beginning of starting a YouTube channel, it wasn't necessarily competition, but comparison, because you see people that start at the same time as you, and maybe their platform grows bigger, or maybe, you know, they're getting more response. I think at the beginning, I was kind of like, oh, maybe there's something that I'm doing wrong. Maybe I need to be more relatable here, or maybe I need to be less extra. Maybe I need to calm down, like stuff like that. I think at the beginning I was just like, oh, that's why I'm not getting as much interaction. But then I think God really humbled me, because it's really about who is touched by what you say, what you do. Because kind of going back to the audience thing, God has called you to a particular type of people, and for you not to be your authentic self, they're losing something from that. And the moment you touch someone, they can touch 100 people, and then they can touch, you know what I mean? Like, I think we also have to sometimes separate ourselves from what God has called us to do, because sometimes we get in the way of it. And yes, YouTube, you can make it a business, like Emmanuella was saying about it, it's actually a whole career. And yes, the algorithm matters and all of that. But I think especially in the beginning stages, being your authentic self will open the right doors for you. But yeah, in terms of competition, I think it was mainly just comparison. Because I try and make sure that everything I do, I always question, what's my attention behind this? And I was actually reading Haley's caption today, and she said something about, is it going to feed your ego, or is it going to feed your spirit? And I think sometimes, you know, because of the hype, because of, oh, you know, this much engagement, this much, like, that can feed someone's ego, that can feed my ego, instead of feeding my spirit. Like, oh, maybe I should create content like that again because it got so many views. But no, really follow your heart, really follow, really think, I think what has helped me is thinking about, what's my intention behind this? Because at the end of the day, I don't know if you guys can relate, you can post something and then a week later you're cringing at what you post. I don't know if it's just me.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
I don't know if it's just me. But And I don't, like, obviously it happens naturally because we're always growing. That's just an evidence of growth. But I don't want to ever put myself in a position where I'm like, oh, I literally just did that because of flesh, you know? So, yeah.
I feel you. I feel you. I think with my family's YouTube channel, I have, when I'm editing it, sometimes like I put something in and a week later I'm looking back and I'm like, really? Should I kept that joke in? I think that's a little bit close to them, especially with my mother. I'm like, I think that's a little bit close to the mark. Maybe that one should be been put in. But sometimes I have to be like, do you know what? It's okay. Like, we're being our honest selves, we're being authentic and stuff. And some people are gonna like that, and some people aren't gonna like that. But it's okay.
Right.
Yeah. And to be honest, when I see one dislike on a video, I know that it's gone to lots of people. I'm like, it's gone beyond family. Someone's disliked it.
Yeah.
Wow, honestly.
That's a good
Not that
point.
I'm looking for people to start disliking, please. I don't want to see more dislikes than likes, but yeah.
You never know, they might have been watching it upside down and just mistakenly thought it was a like button.
I mean,
There you go.
It happens. Turn your phone, please.
Honestly, I can relate to the cringing. I remember my first video on my YouTube channel. I must have been singing. I think you all know. I must have been singing like the first. Like, why am I singing? Like, I can't sing. Oh goodness. But yeah, I think definitely being your authentic self is so important. I think that's one thing I've learned from this podcast that you've really said, Issachar. So honestly, be your authentic selves out there if you're listening. Like, you don't have to copy anybody else. You are your own unique fingerprint. So make your impact on this world. But yeah, do you ladies have anything else?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask as well, as you know, as we were talking about the different generational gaps as Emmanuella was bringing up, would you say, it's for all of you, but would you say that as an African or Caribbean, with the African or Caribbean background, that actually that is also, culture has also been a hindrance to people accepting the creative side of you, right? Almost like, I mean, some of the questions you might get is like, will this pay the bills? I mean, you may not be paying bills there. Or like, you know, will this actually bring you money in? What's your backup plan? Yeah.
I think I thank God, because I think my parents knew from young that I always wanted to do like performing arts and stuff like that. And I think it was me that kind of limited myself, especially because ironically, I think it was school that made me think, oh, let me go to sixth form instead of a college or a performance college. And just in case, like exactly what you said about having a backup, and yeah, just having this really not the best mentality about it, because like my dad's into music and my mum just has always supported it as well. I think there was always, obviously there's a little bit of a bias, like, you know, maybe get, still go to uni, get the degree. But even with the idea of university, and maybe this can be a topic for another day, but I think it's not even for everyone as well. I definitely think it's mainly for people that are going into a specialist career, like a doctor. And obviously you can still go to uni. Like my degree that I'm studying now, English literature and creative writing, is not a specialist. You can't really be a specialist as an English teacher. But what I'm trying to say is that, you know, I kind of wanted to go there for the experience, and I think I've enjoyed it. I don't really regret it. There have been times I have, though, I'm not gonna lie. But I think I put that pressure on myself, because I kept on thinking, what is it I really want to do? Because I remember careers days used to stress me out so much when they say, you know, what career are you looking into? And I remember I used to be obsessed with going on that search job engine, trying to look for a job that describes what I want to do, but I couldn't find anything. I was like, okay, I could probably do this, but in the long term, I don't think I'm going to be interested in this. And I think that has always been the thing that I struggled with, like, oh, but I can't fully see myself doing this wholeheartedly. I can't fully see myself just being into English. I can't fully see myself just being into dance. I like to explore different avenues. You get what I mean? Yeah. And I think that's the mentality, I think, not even my parents, I think school put me in. Because even when we had careers days, when we had like different what do we call it again? You know, when like in the hall, and there were different like
stands.
stands, yes. And there'll be so much for, I don't know, business and engineering and all of these like STEM subjects. And there will sometimes be none or very little opportunities for people that are into drama, into creative writing and all of those things. You have to almost, most of the time, for people to do that, it needs to be word of mouth. You need to have the right connections. And one thing I realized is that, you know what, maybe it's just because the type of role or career that I'm going into, it hasn't fully been created yet, or I kind of determine what that looks like, if that makes sense.
Wow. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. I know that a lot of people who feel overwhelmed, especially for me listening right now, I didn't choose a STEM subject, and coming to uni, I'm studying sociology, and I kind of felt, okay, maybe I should have done law, or maybe I should have been better at chemistry, because I think those subjects have more a direct path after uni, and subjects like sociology, English languages are barely talked about, and it can kind of be stressful when you choose it as a degree. But I really, really appreciate what you just shared right now, and I think a lot of people would find a lot of comfort hearing that university is not just the only option. I mean, we have Shernorva, who has her own business. She didn't go to uni, and she's doing her own thing, and she's successful. And I think that's the type of opportunities or like topics that we want to expose to our audience, just to know that there's not just a narrow or restricted view of what success looks like, or careers, or so I really appreciate it.
And I think you both made a really good point as well, in terms of like, when you do go to uni, the subject you choose should be something that you enjoy. Like if I did go to university, as much as science, I think it was GCSE, I stopped doing science like fully after GCSE, but as much as science, like I enjoyed it, but see, getting the grade I did, the struggle to get that grade, it was not worth continuing on. It was not worth, for me, I was like, I have to love you and leave you behind. And if I'm still interested in it, then I'll do some like little research, watch some doctor programs. I mean, Obesity and Casualty are not helping me, but you know, I'll dabble a little bit in, you know. But you really have to do something that you enjoy, because you're going to be there for 3 years studying this subject. So please, I mean, I'm saying it, and then I know that there are going to be people at home are like, oh, it's so easy to say, but my parents are saying and stuff. But as much as you can, try and choose a subject that you will enjoy for the 3 years, rather than you're just trying to tick a box, because university is not a tick box exercise.
It's not. And like, just to bounce off what you're saying, I think especially if you're doing like a humanities subject, you're doing a creative subject, it's because you're called to create something out of that. I think the difference between, I think it's also about the fact that it makes you have a broader outlook on life, and it must mean that you're called to something in terms of a wider scale, in terms of humanities, and you can literally use sociology for so many different things. And I think not to even like talk bad about people that do chemistry, people that do engineering, like I look up to people that do that, because that's amazing and that's dedication. And it's just different type of people, because some people, they know that, okay, I want to be a doctor, I have to be at school for this many years, and then I have to do this type of degree. So that's absolutely fine. But I think the idea that everyone learns in a similar way, I think has really been damaging to a lot of people's idea on purpose, because it's like, oh, I have to get my degree, I have to get my grades, and then this opportunity will be open to me. And I think people get that anxiety, especially when, you know, like how I was saying, you know, almost done, uni's almost finished. We get that idea like, oh, I should know what I want to do by now. But exactly like Shernorva said, as long as you're doing what you love and you work on it to the point of expertise, like you're not just learning the things that they teach you in your sociology classes, but you're reading books from philosophers, people that inspire you. Like, be the best in what you do, and your rooms will make your gifts will make room for you. Like, if you're into writing, you know, go above and beyond what you learn in uni, you know, make it your profession. We need to study ourselves more than the degree. that we're doing. Like, we should study ourselves outside of what we're given in our degree. And I think that's what makes us more comfortable with what we want to do, because we've practiced it to the point of mastery, and no one can stop you. Think of someone like J.K. Rowling. She's an author, and a lot of people will be like, I remember when I went to an open day, literally in year 12, and it was a creative writing course, and this guy straight up said, yeah, not many people get paid from this job, but if you want to do this degree, fair enough, but I didn't get anything out of this. It was so discouraging. I was like, why would you say that? Do you know how many people you're discouraging from going into what they're called to do? So that idea of being an author seems like, oh, you can't really get anything out of that. But J.K. Rowling, she's like a billionaire right now. Yeah. Like, she's been successful in that because she focused on what she was good at to the point of mastery. And I think that's all we have to really do. We shouldn't worry about, what career we're going to get into straight after uni. And I think there's nothing stopping us from even starting now as well. Exactly like Shernorva said about ticking it off a box. You will realize, I mean, obviously I haven't finished uni yet, but even from people that have finished uni, I've seen once you stop uni, nothing changes. Like, you actually become in control of everything. You get what I mean? The job is not handed to you on a silver plate. Like, you have to still go out and find those things. So don't even wait until uni's ticked off the box. I think that's the best place to even find yourself and find what you want to do.
100% agree. And jobs they're not as rigid as people think as well. Like, you could go into a position and end up doing so many different things, or they love you so much that they tailor it to you and to what you're really good at. So I think too many times people think I'm going from A to B to C, and it's just going to be this like progressive sort of thing, that it's one step to another. And as you were saying, like with the creative writing, like or with even J.K. Rowling, like, okay, she has books, but the books have also been created into films, and like it's so much beyond. And I'm sure it's not just, oh, they've created a film, let's not talk to J.K. Rowling, let's just leave her on her own. I'm sure she's part of that creative process as well. So I'm like being like it like it's what we were saying before about let your mind just expand and like have fun with it. Like, have so much fun with the things that you're interested in.
You know what? I was literally just gonna ask, would there be a piece of advice you've given? But she was telling me to be authentic. She was saying that you should have mastery. I learned so much in what you were just saying. So honestly, I really appreciate you coming. I don't know if you guys have anything else you wanted to add to today's episode, but I've really, really learned a lot in this time.
Thank you so much, Izakun, because this has been a mind blow. Oh, and I can do that and they can see me this time. It's just been so great, and it's even just like being able to talk as the four of us as well and have conversation. Like, don't limit yourselves at home, guys. Just let your mind run free. Exactly. And blow up.
Just to kind of echo what the girls just said. I loved it. I think you just shared so much, and I think what you just shared just shows how much is being poured into you, and how much you are accessing yourself to. Again, I follow you on social media, so I don't know everything about you, but I know the things that you're dabbling into, and it's just really amazing for you to be here and to share a bit of what you do. Really appreciative. I'm looking forward to more of what Izakun, the storyteller and thinker, is doing. So
come through.
Thank you guys so much for even reaching out to me. I was so excited. I've never done a podcast before, so I was like, oh gosh, I felt so honoured.
Wow, we are honoured too.
Thank you guys.
So thank you all so much. We've had so much fun on this podcast. A big thank you to Izakun, a big thank you to Blessings, and a big thank you to Emmanuella. And a thank you from myself as well. And we will see you all next time. Bye.
Bye.
We're really glad you joined us today. Check us out on Instagram, Afrodias, and comment on today's podcast post. Don't forget, be phenomenal.